All right, folks. It's Tuesday. Dusty's here. I'm here. We all moving, grooving, doing what we do, and we're about to make it happen just like we always do, almost every Tuesday about the same time, give or take a few minutes. Before, to the West Coast, to the East Coast, and everything between, folks. From Eve after dark to concerts in the park. Roy Lonzo, the Godfather of West Coast hip hop. We do this every Tuesday, right about this time, right about this day. Check this out, folks. We're going back. We're going back. We're going back. What up, Dusty?
Lonzo, back in the days when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. Man, dude, I saw a post that inspired tonight's show, and I can't believe it's been 46 years for you, but I want to break down the opening and the career of Eve After Dark tonight on the show. And before I do that, shout out to the chat room. Before you guys get too comfy, make sure you hit that like button for your boys. But you posted something this past Father's Day, and it was a picture of you and your dad. And I want to read the whole post first, then I want to break it down piece by piece. But let's do this. I'm going to read the actual post here. You posted on Father's Day. You put a picture of you and your pops. Lonzo looking fly in his red suit. Got a couple buttons down, looking like a half Alonzo. So the post is, my dad and I at Eve After Dark, 1979. He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. He took me to meet Jeffy, the owner of the Eve, when I was 22 and told me, I can get you in, but I can't keep you in. I worked with Jeffy from 1979 to 2019. The Eve was where everything started. He had my back like no one else could have. I learned so much from him, except learning how to cook. He was a father to everyone who worked with them. Happy Heavenly Father's Day. And that kind of coincides with the 46th anniversary of the opening of the Eve After Dark. Man, I was 1 year old when you opened that. It's so crazy just how time flies and to think that. Yeah. But I want to break that down piece by piece, and then we're going to break down the Eve After Dark. The first part, you said, my dad and I at Eve After Dark, 1979. He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Break that line down for us.
You know what, man? My old man saw something in me that I didn't see it myself. And even right now, sometimes it may sound crazy, but I've been said you have a self-worth issue. Okay. I'm so busy being grounded. I forget sometimes. My buddy says, you forget who you are sometimes. And I do. And even at that time in my life, I didn't know I had anything unique, special. I was just doing me. And I never forget when I first started DJing, I wanted to buy a step side mini pickup. They don't even make them no more. Chevy had these little small pickup trucks. It looked like the big step sides, the S10s, but it was a little bit smaller. And I thought they was so cool. That's when everybody had Nissans and stuff like that. And he said, you can't carry no equipment in that. That's too damn small. Plus, what you gonna do? Somebody gonna steal it off the back of the truck. And he told me, he says, we go down. He goes out on Long Beach Boulevard in Long Beach, and he sees this burgundy van. And I said, damn, I didn't have no idea that I could afford this van. I couldn't afford it in my mind. He says, I'm gonna co-sign for you, but I ain't paying your car note. I help you with one. If you fall off one time, I got you. And I bought the van, and that was the best thing I ever did. He co-signed for me, and that was the beginning of Disco Lonzo. And like I said, he knew I was responsible at an early age, because he trained me to be responsible, but I didn't really realize how responsible I was until I looked back at my life and see, damn, I did do things a little bit different. And even Jeffy saw things that I didn't see in myself, because for me, it was commonplace. And I think that's what separated me from a lot of cats in my era, that I understood responsibility and how to take care of myself and other people's stuff. And that was one of the things my old man instilled in me that I'm forever thankful for.
Let's continue. Quote, he took me to meet Jeffy, the owner of the Eve, when I was 22. He told me, I can get you in, but I can't keep you in. Break that down.
Well, he and Jeffy was friends. They did business together. They hung out. Jeffy had a club downstairs. My old man was one of his drinking buddies. And Jeffy lived in my neighborhood. He lived right up the hill from me. I could just sit in my front yard and look at Jeffy's house just up the hill. And I've been knowing this guy all my life, but we weren't friends. Him and my daddy were friends. Back then, kids and adults didn't intermingle like that. That's Mr. Jeffy, and that's all I knew. And he told me, he made me stop calling him Mr. Jeffy. He called me Jeffy, goddammit. I'm Jeffy. Everybody calls me Jeffy. Fuck that Mr. shit. Okay, Mr. Jeffy. Okay, and that's how he was. But my old man, he explained to me that I can bring you to a situation, but it's up to you to cultivate your own relationship so you can stay here. And that's basically what he's saying. I tell it to all my kids. If I introduce you to somebody and y'all have a working relationship and you blow it, don't expect me to come save it. Don't rely on our relationship to maintain yours. You develop your own relationship. That way, if you're successful, you can take credit for it. And if you fail, anybody to blame but yourself.
Yep. All right, next line. I worked with Jeffy from 1979 to 2019. Now, Lonzo, that is a long-standing business relationship. Most business relationships don't last that long. What do you think kept it going so long between you and Jeffy?
Jeffy, he comes from a non-conventional background. He built everything he had from scratch. He started off a little small cafe, and his thing was find what people need, and they'll always need you. That was his motto. And he built a little cafe, and then after he fed them for breakfast, he eventually built a little bar so people could have a place to come hang out on the weekends. And then as that got more popular, he needed a bigger space, so we built the Eve After Dark upstairs, and he also had some office buildings downstairs that could offset the rent. He was a real estate guy. He was a truck driver turned cafe owner, club owner, but he never really cared for the club business. He did it, but it was something, it interfered with his regular business, because you're a club owner, you got to be up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. You ain't driving the truck at 6 o'clock in the morning safely after being up all night long. So he always eventually had somebody running the club for him, because he focused more on his construction and his other businesses. And the club was always like a secondary situation. He'd come through 11:30, he'd be gone. And when I took over the Eve, that just made it that much better, because now he's getting double money and he don't have to worry about it. But that relationship was cultivated by me going in so young and going in with so much respect for him, not only as a businessman, but just as one of my dad's friends. I had to listen to his stories. I had to take in his lessons. And I was a student of his up until the day he died. It was a lot of things he told me 4 or 5 months before he passed that I still apply today. He was just one of them dudes. People think I am a philosopher. A lot of what I got from old dudes, man. I just have to repackage it and give it to these youngsters in a way they can respect it. You don't get old game from young dudes. You get old game from old dudes. And like I said, you have to repackage it and give it to them in a way that they understand it. I can't speak in the same terms that Jeffy taught me. He called posters placards. We ain't used placards in God knows how long. Flyers is called pluggers. Nobody, get somebody with a plugger. They don't know what the hell a plugger is. Anyway, the terminology is different. It's the same phrases, same basic lessons. It just we work for a modern audience.
All right, next line. One line that means a whole lot. The Eve was where everything started. Break that line down.
The Eve is where everything started, dude. A lot of things were going on before the Eve. A lot of things. We had dances. Me and Roger did dance at the Alpine Village, LSD Productions. Somebody talking about Z cars in the chat room right here, but nobody had the consistency and the impact of Eve After Dark. Yeah, people had dances. You danced from 9 to 2, and after 2 o'clock, it was over with. Same thing. I did dances at Queen Mary, Biltmore Hotel, LA Convention Center. After 2 o'clock, it was over with. Nobody thinks about that anymore. The impact on people's lives was minimum. But the Eve After Dark wasn't nothing like that, dude. Wasn't nothing like it. Eve After Dark became a mecca of not only hip hop, but comedy and anything else that was around at that time. And that's why my documentary, Eve After Dark, is so prevalent. It was the beginning of an era. When we opened the Eve, we had 2 hip hop records, Curtis Blow's Christmas Rap and Rappers Alike. That was it. Now, there may have been some others, but them was the hits. Them were the ones people knew. And we, people, hip hop historians will argue, oh man, so-and-so had this. So yeah, they did. But they wasn't kicking ass. They weren't on the radio. They wasn't having an impact. Yes, it may have been other records that did good, but they didn't have the same impact that Curtis Blow's Christmas Rapping and Sugar Hill Gang's Rappers Alike did. And I've always, me and my boy from VIP, Calvin Anderson, we both debated the whole 1973 birth of hip hop, because in 1973 I was in high school. 1973, 74, we was discoing in LA. We was not hip hop in the shit. And I've said it before, I'm gonna say it again. The birthday for West Coast hip hop is probably about 77, 78.
Yep. All right, so let's take it up to around that time. A few days ago was the 46th anniversary of the grand opening of Eve After Dark. 1977, is that safe to say?
79.
79, okay, 1 year off. All right, so take us back to that specific day, Lonzo. Did you get any sleep that night before? What did you do to prep for the opening of the Eve After Dark?
Passed out a shitload of flyers, hung a shitload of posters. That's all we had was flyers and posters. Anybody gave a dance, we had they set passing out flyers. We had the schools, we had all the various events anywhere in the city, walking the malls, and we didn't have a lot of luck the first week. We had a few people show up mostly from the neighborhood. I grew up right around the corner from Eve After Dark, pretty much, and they knew me. And we had a few people from Alpine, not a whole lot. We had about maybe about 70, 75 people show up the first weekend. And 75 people in the Eve, because the Eve is the big box, it's open. You can stand in one corner of the Eve and see everything in there. You can stand in any corner of the Eve, you can pretty much see everything going on in there. So there was not a lot of nooks and crannies to stash bodies. So that if you got 75 people in a room that holds 300, it could look a little thin, okay? And we looked a little thin for the first couple of nights, and we started thickening it up, but we still hadn't hit that plateau yet. It took us a few while for us to hit that real plateau. We had a couple of real good nights, but nothing really happened till after Cameo showed up.
Talk to us about that. That was going to be on my list also. I couldn't remember what act it was that you said turned things around dramatically for you, but it was Cameo. Break that down. How did you set that up? Talk to us about that whole process again. Cameo to the Eve After Dark.
I belong to a record pool. Record pool that just started getting popular. Record pools when people, record companies give a individual or a club a bunch of records, and they pass them out to all their local DJs, and then you had to report on Monday how the records got a response from the radio, and they would take them reports sometimes to a radio program directors and use them to try and get leverage to get guys to play the records. And my partner, Lewis Harper, still friends of mine right to this day, he ran the record pool. It was called the R&B Disco Troupe. And it was a bunch of us in there. There was a few cats in there that ended up blowing up big time, besides myself. A guy named Julian Jackson, one of the baddest DJs, photographer for Prince. We all was young bucks just coming up, and I had just got the Eve, and Lewis drove a Volvo, and the Volvo had to go to the shop. I got a van, and I could hold all kinds of records in the van. Hey man, tell you what, take me up to pick up some records up in Century City, and I'll buy you lunch. And we went to lunch. We went to a place called the Black Whale in Marina Del Rey, if you ever been to the Black Whale, you know we talking about some high-end eating. And he had an expense account. So we sit there sometimes 3-4 hours eating and drinking, and they had to carry us up out of there because he had an expense account. And if you don't spend it, they'll cut it back. So, all right, cool, let's go. We go to Century City. I'm on the 20-some-odd floor, and Gerald Busby behind the desk at his record company. And they were promoting the new Cameo record, the one with the light blue one with all the guys on the front of it. I think it was Cameosis, if I ain't mistaken. And in the conversation, I'm sitting there minding my business like I normally do. And Gerald Busby, one of the most powerful men in the record industry, who was Lewis's brother-in-law. Lewis is married to his sister. And he says, "Hey man, I got Cameo coming to town. I got appearances for him on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, but you got anybody can do something for him on Thursday?" And you got the club. He said, "Anyway, you can take him on Thursday." And I'm like, did I just believe? Did I just hear what I heard? I can't believe what I just heard. And I'm like a kid in the school. I said, hey, I got a club. He said, "What club you got?" Eve After Dark. And Lewis verified, and Gerald knew of Eve After Dark because he used to hang out at Jeffy's. And I'm like, then he asked me, "You want Cameo to come through?" Man, that's like somebody asked, "You want Drake to come through? You want Mary J. Blige to do a walkthrough? You want Kendrick to come through your shit?" Oh man, dude, yes. He says, "Okay, I'll send him out there, send a limo out there for him tomorrow night." I left there, man, ran out to K-Day, bought me 10 10-second spots. All they said was tonight at Eve After Dark, Cameo live in person, Eve After Dark, Alvarado Segundo upstairs, Cameo. They played every hour on the hour, live. Didn't have time to make a commercial. That night, we opened the doors to Eve, man, for the first time. It was a line around the gas station because Eve at this time, we had to go through the back door because Jeffy's was still cracking. And to keep the kids from mixing with the adults, we went through the back door. And I got a line through the alley around the gas station. Oh, man, it was massive. And my girl, she collected money and giving change. And I'm like, damn, I'm finna get paid for the first time. Cameo showed up. And I don't know what the people came because they thought I was lying or they wanted to see Cameo. Because, you know, if you lying, I'm done. I'm done in the hood. And to promote Cameo, they gave us what they call a bunch of flats. Flats are just the front part of the album cover. And we took them and we made displays around the club. And so people came in. It was like Cameo night at Eve After Dark. Cameo came through, Doc. Larry Blackman didn't come through. Nathan Lieutenant didn't come through. All they sent us was the horn section. But the girls took them flats off the wall and looked at the flats. That's him right there. That's him right there. Shit, I was God after that. He brought Cameo to the hood. Oh, man. Cameo loved it. We loved it. I loved it. And that was the first night Eve was packed to the rafters, and I made a shitload of money. And I didn't have to cut it. And I still got Friday and Saturday to get paid again. That started a trend for me that was ridiculous. People understand this. Uncle Jam's Army did a lot of big dances. But at the Eve, 1979 to about 1984, except for slow nights, we had a few slow nights, I would knock down $4 to $5 grand a weekend. 4 times a week, more times a month. I went for
79, 80s, ladies and gentlemen, not 2025.
I went from making minimum wage, my paycheck every week at Record Shack was $168 to $4 to $5 grand a week. I didn't know how to act. I didn't know how to act, and you wouldn't either. You wouldn't know how to act either. Oh man, I would have bet. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. No, you didn't. No, you wouldn't. You'd acted a fool just like I did. To somebody
Yeah.
else. Go ahead.
Yep. God didn't make me famous at an early age for a reason, man. He was like, nah, you would not be able to handle it.
What? Look, man. I wasn't always this calm and collective. I was a bigger fool than it. I was just the biggest fool. Bigger. I wasn't irresponsibly stupid, but I did stupid shit like everybody else did. I just had two cats yanking my chain on both sides. Jeffy and my daddy was yanking my chain at the same time. Yanking my chain at the same time. All right, goddamn it, get out of line. You want to? You won't have no club. Okay, boss. You stepped your ass right back in line. And my old man, he never did play. I don't give a damn how much money you got. You're still my son. If I say don't do something, I don't care how old you get, how old you get, how much money you got. You're still my son. Whatever I say, go. You're right, Pops. And that's what kept me out of trouble. And I still found a way to get in trouble from time to time.
All right, let's talk about NWA and their start at Eve. And we've talked about it in the past, but you know what? We have so many new listeners and people tuning in. They don't catch all the videos. And I'm gonna stop saying that, but because it's gonna be a reoccurring thing. You know, NWA was a big part of Alonzo's life. But we talked about it before. But talk about Eazy-E's first time coming up to the Eve.
Eazy came to the Eve with Dre. Dre's people lived on my street, and that's how far back we go. His uncles and his aunts lived about 3 or 4 houses down. Dre, I don't know if he didn't live with his dad. His mom lived around we would call it on the weak side, and his dad lived on my street. His dad and my older sister was friends. His dad cut lines with my dad. So my dad was like the neighborhood dad. If wasn't nobody around the pad to kick it with, if you want to make some money, come on, go to work with Mr. Williams, cutting lines. That's what he did when he wasn't on the freeway. He cut lines. And back then he wasn't on the freeway. He wasn't on the freeway when I was 8 years old. No, he hadn't started doing that yet. And I remember, I tell people this sometimes, how you remember some shit like this? But Theodore, Dre's dad, came to my house and told my mom, I just had a baby. My mama said something I'll never forget. She said, babies having babies. Because Dre's mama was like 14 and 15 when she had him. Look at it. Look it up. I think Verna was like 14 to 15 when she had Dre. Okay? And she said this in one of his documentaries. I am not speaking out of turn. And I think Theodore might not have been much older, but my mama said babies having babies. And then I overheard him say, my mom said, what's the name? And I heard her say, he said, Andre. Now, it's talking about 1965. I'm 8, 9 years old. I'm ear hustling like a son of a gun. I have never heard a name like that before in my life. I'm used to Alberts and Erics and Bobs and Peters and Marcuses and whatever. I ain't never heard of Andre before. Fast forward, 16 years later. He comes to the club with Eazy-E. And I didn't know who he was. I had no idea who he was whatsoever. And he started dropping names. You know, my people, Lloyd and Floyd and Deborah. Oh, yeah. I was trying to get at his auntie. Shit. She's nice. Anyway, never did. Our brothers wasn't that happen. But yeah, I know you're talking about, yeah. And Eric was with him. I say, man, because Eve After Dark was from a different era. Eve, remember what I'm saying. Eve After Dark was from a different era. You did not wear tennis shoes no place. You had to wear hard sole shoes everywhere, to school, to church, to clubs. And that was the dress code of the streets, hard sole shoes. Hey, man, change your clothes and come to the club. And because I know your people. And now here again, Dre was he wasn't maybe 16 or 17, but technically I could have let him in at the Eve at 16, but I made the age limit Eve 18 because I wanted to be more like Soul Train as opposed to Romper Room. That was my whole motivation. Soul Train was the big shit in the 70s. I'm thinking I'm a black ass Don Cornelius without the cameras. So I wanted a certain look. And that's how I maintained the look of Eve After Dark. by making people by having a dress code. Well, Dre go back and change clothes. Easy come back. He ain't changed shit but the date on this calendar. So Easy talking a little shit, and it's in my. I said this in my book. It's in my documentary. Easy talking a little shit. So to let him know who the boss was, I let Dre in. Easy had to stand outside. He left, and a couple weeks later, he came back dressed correctly. But that's how we met. That's how we met.
Now let's talk about Dre. How did how did Dre come to be a big part of Eve After Dark? So much so that he included you in the Super Bowl a few years back.
Eve After Dark was a monster, dude. It was a straight monster. When the Eve was open, everything got shut down around it. It's a gas station right next to the Eve. At 9 o'clock on a Friday night, when I had the 99-cent jam, you couldn't buy gas till I had my guards make a U-turn because the line would pass the gas station. Either you had to put a break in the line for the driveway, or you had to make the kids make a U-turn back around and come back up to Eve again. But that was a problem because niggas would jump the line. So we just started making them go around the gas station and then cut in between the driveway. Those who drove over there, you couldn't buy no gas at the other gas station. It closed a little early. Gas station on the corner was a 24-hour station. One across the street closed about 10 o'clock. But people were just bombarded with cars before they closed. He got pissed off, and the gas it's a grocery store across the street. It was full. All up and down the neighborhood was full. So we had so many cars, and people forget Jeffy's was still open. So we making a major impact on the community at night.
Thank you, Rap 7.
Much love to you, Rap 7. We making a major impact on the community at nighttime, traffic-wise, noise-wise, everything. But because the Eve was catering to young adults, everybody kind of turned a blind eye. They didn't trip on it. Jeffy didn't trip on the neighborhoods. Jeffy owned most of the houses in the neighborhood in and around Eve After Dark, so they wasn't gonna say nothing. And it just made for a unique situation. Plus, we was open late, and a lot of times we would what they call flip the house, because kids would leave maybe 12:30, 1 o'clock. Then all the after parties came in for all the other clubs, all the other dances, and it just made for a hell of a situation. And that was our hook, and that was our demise.
Ooh, break that down.
Well, the hook was when everybody else was closing, we were still open. The Eve would be open sometime at 6 o'clock in the morning. It wouldn't be shit for us to be partying in the sun, be creeping up around the goddamn over the hemisphere. And the sheriff, we had a couple of issues, and the sheriff realized that he was coming at 2:30, 3 o'clock. Why aren't you guys closed? We close at 4 o'clock. Why is this club closed and you're not closed? We close at 4. Talking about Jeffy's. Well, that one's closed. Why aren't you closed? And he started putting 2 and 2 together. I said, we don't know. We just have a DJ, no alcohol, nothing like that. So we stayed up. And that son bitch made it his business to get us shut down and made us comply with the ordinance, because the ordinance, it was a loophole in the ordinance. It says no jukebox or no live entertainment after 2 a.m. And they say shit about DJs. And I rode that damn ordinance until they changed it. They changed it citywide, countywide, I should say, because we're in LA County.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, we know you have some gangsta in you, Lonzo. Was that always in you, or did the Eve After Dark bring it out as a businessman and having to, kind of be a gangster sometime in the business?
You know what? I was telling a friend of mine a minute ago. I never been no gangster, but I never been no punk. It's the same thing. It's just my personality is pretty much what you see on here. I like to laugh and joke around, but there's another side to any real man. And Eve, that dude had to come out a lot more. I called him my evil twin, Alfonso. He had to come out a few times and check some fools. Not something that it's not something I brag about because it's nothing to brag about. But in order to survive on the corner of Avalon El Segundo for 40 years without getting robbed or get shit beat out of you, you had to do some shit to let people know I ain't no joke. I ain't no joke. And I got friends. I'm not to be messed with, and I also have friends not to be messed with. People like me. And that was one of the things that made us successful because some of the Pyru boys, they were my buddies. The ones that didn't chase me out of Centennial were my buddies. We didn't become buddies till after I left Centennial though. That's what it was. So that allowed me to have not really protect. Well, I guess for lack of a better word, protection. You know, the deal was, hey man, you take care of the inside. Ain't nobody go fuck up. This is in our hood. We love what you're doing, and this is when gangbangers looked out for people, man. All I want to do is get in free and chase some girls, man. You got that, Doc? Come on, no problem. And me and homeboys, these guys are still friends right to this day because they was cool dudes. They was well respected. And if I tell you this is my homeboy spot, you ain't gonna mess it up. You're not gonna mess it up.
Good looking out, Rad 7, for that other donation. Before we get to Rad 7's question, we're about halfway through the show, so I'm going to remind everybody to hit that like button if you haven't already. If you appreciate real West Coast hip-hop, it doesn't get much more authentic than this right here. Please hit that like button and definitely hit that subscribe button if this is your first time joining the channel. You are tuned in to NWA Stories with Lonzo. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Rad 7 dropped a couple of donations. Really appreciate it. If you guys are feeling a little, little giving, drop a few bucks. There's a dollar sign right there. We really appreciate it. Rad 7 says, how was it putting that Eve documentary together?
Oh man, that was really super cool because I got to reunite with a bunch of buddies, man. Like I said, the Eve was its own entity, dude. The Eve had people. It launched a lot of careers. It was a platform for a lot of different people that became popular and became famous. And there's a difference. One of the most famous guys was Dr. Dre. One of the most popular guys was AK, the King of Pop. He was one of the most talented cats I've ever met at Eve After Dark, and he didn't want to pursue his career at that time. He went up to the service, won every pop locking contest I ever gave. Sang his ass off, danced his ass off, and played the piano. One of the first guys I ever thought about managing in my life. He disappeared on me for about 10, 15 years. And I saw him again. He was working, producing songs for a young lady, and we reconnected, got him a record deal, and that was part of the legacy of Eve After Dark. Nobody really knows him like I do. But he's an industry standard, but he's not really famous, but he's very popular. If you know what I mean. He toured with Tyler Perry, did movies with Tyler Perry, plays with Tyler Perry around the country. D.L. Hughley was a regular at Eve After Dark. He came to the club and hung out and watched Robin Harris do his thing on the stage. Keaton Ivory Waynes played Eve After Dark. So this was the kind of stuff, kind of things that I would do at Eve that made it different because everything was brand new. Comedy, there was no Def Comedy Jam yet. There was none of that. There was no Comedy X theater yet in Leimert Park. So we had all type of talent coming. Jewel was a regular at Eve After Dark. She later got signed to Death Row. Jewel was a regular at Eve After Dark. Sang every contest, took all my money. But these are the kind of names that people that came through Eve. Some of them have passed on, but still there were so many of them, and some of them blew up, some of them blew out. But it still was. Eve was the hub. Eve was the home. And when Dre played homage to Eve After Dark at the Super Bowl, I think that's one of the biggest salutes I could have ever had in my life, to see somebody who I have worked with and stood on the top of the Eve After Dark and exposed it to the world. Like they say in the documentary, most people didn't understand what that meant. He knew what it meant. And I hate to kick people or whatever the case may be, but you won't see that for 15, 20 Cedric. You won't see that. You won't see that.
I remember watching it, Lonzo, because of course, I'm all eyes on the halftime show, and I just started pointing at the thing, looking at everybody like everyone else knew. No one knew what the fuck I was doing. I thought I was having a seizure or some shit. I couldn't even get the words out. I was like, "That's the Eve, yo. That's the fucking Eve. That's Lonzo." I was excited as fuck. I think I texted you right away too.
Yep. My phone blew up for the next 2 hours, man. I couldn't answer it. I was too busy wiping my eyes, dude.
Damn.
I
How'd
was
you
like,
feel, man? Talk to us about, when you saw it, how you felt, all that good stuff.
it was like watching one of your kids being born, man, because here's something that you created shit 35, 40 years ago, 40 years ago at that time. And somebody introduced it to the world globally. The Super Bowl is probably one of the biggest platforms outside of one of those award shows. The Grammys, that's probably one of the biggest ones next to the Grammys and the other award shows. So to have all those people in the studio, in the stadium, and then it being globally watched, dude, that was massive, man. That was massive. That was massive. And then to have the hottest acts in the country be a part of it. Kendrick has been back. He's been back again since that time.
I would say that's probably the most watched Super Bowl appearance, if numbers wise, in history, and it's going to go down like that. I think.
I would think so too. Because it gave us so much to look forward to, and it represented Compton, it represented Eve After Dark, it represented New York. You had 50 Cent there, you had New York, you had Mary J. Blige, and you had the next generation of hip hop, Kendrick Lamar there. So it's something that people will watch forever, but most of them don't understand the significance of all the different buildings that were a part of that Super Bowl halftime show. And the Eve was center stage.
Damn. So you mentioned your evil twin, Alfonso. Give us the story of when Alfonso had to come out at the club.
I was telling a story a few minutes ago. I had a security guard, big dude. He was a linebacker for a local college, junior college football team. And I hired him as a bouncer. And I noticed every night he worked, my back door to the club would be broken open. We had to start locking the door because although it was a fire hazard, people would let their friends into the back door. If you want to watch them, they sneak down the steps, on the back steps, let people in. So I started locking it. I knew it was a fire hazard, but I locked it anyway. And I noticed my back door would get busted open. Every Monday morning, I got to pay Roscoe, Jeffrey's son, to fix the back door. And one night, I was telling my girl about it. She says, "You know what? Maybe that's what's happening because I noticed some guys. It was some guys that she knew. She knew everybody came to the club by face, but some guys she just didn't like. And a couple of guys that she didn't like, he never passed me by. I don't like him. So I started doing an investigation, and I saw where this dude was busting the door open. He charging $3. I'm charging $5. I fired him on the spot. My dad hung at the club all the time. My dad was always at the club. And homeboy goes to plead this case to my dad downstairs in Jeffy's. And I walk into Jeffy's. He's down there drinking with my dad. What the fuck? Yeah. Oh, my old man was a good-hearted dude. Oh, man, think about giving us. He ain't getting back shit, okay? We'll talk about it later. Meanwhile, I had to go patrol the area where homeboy was used to patrol. I had to walk around the club, check for keep an eye on the car. I'm sure the security guard. I see the same guard stuff something under the garbage can by the gas station. I walk back around to the club, talk to my dad. Homeboy's back at the table with my dad and his girlfriend. All of a sudden, this girlfriend says, "Hey, somebody stole my purse." I said, "Wait a minute, hold on." I ran around the gas station. Sure enough, her purse was under the garbage can. I said, "Man, get your ass out the goddamn club. Get out of the club. Don't come back." So my dad had bought this dude a drink. He took the drink to the head. And this dude was about 6'4", maybe about 260. Big dude. And between the time we got to arguing and the time he decided to leave, that alcohol kicked in. He talking shit. And I'm like, I can't whoop this big son of a bitch. What I'm gonna do? When he walked past me, I clocked his ass. Fire! Hit right behind his ear, knocked him down, and then knocked him out. My partner, I'm about to do the LA stomp on this fool's head. My partner stops me. Oh man, don't do that. Don't do that. I just do the 6'4", 260 pounds. I got to do something while I can. Well, by the time I get to argue with this fool wakes up, he growling. Oh, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kick your ass. And back in them days, I wasn't the same Lonzo that you seeing right now. Alfonso carried 2 pistols. He carried two pew-pews at that time, okay? Let's do it right. I carried 2 pew-pews at that time. One on my ankle and one on the small of my back in case somebody got funny. So I pulled the big one, 44 Bulldog Magnum, okay? And homeboy looked, what you gonna do with that? Just like Debo would do. I said, I'm gonna put one through your ass. You come up on me. And he came at me. Now, I ain't want to hurt nobody, but I pow up in the air. I said, next one going through your ass. Just so happened that sheriff was coming down Avalon. He ran down the street, flagged down the police, and normally, if I ever had to use my gun, I'd take it and put it in my office in the safe. That way they got to get a search warrant to go get the gun. I don't know nothing to talk about. But this time, I'm in macho mode. I got my nuts hanging out. I'm talking shit. I'm standing on the property of the club. I'm thinking I'm in within the my rights as the club owner. Cops called me off to the curb, and my gun's still hot. Cops smelled my gun. They handcuffed my ass and booked me for attempted murder. Attempted murder. My dad's girlfriend come out to the police car. She pressed charges on him. Petty theft. She only had $10 in her purse. It's a petty theft. So, but we both in the police car going to jail. They're in there hand in hand. He in the car telling me when we get to jail, I can't say it on Facebook, but we having sex. He gonna play booty bandit in jail. Now I didn't watch this nigga cry. Okay. No, I forgot to tell you when I shot up in the air, he started crying. That's what pissed me off. When I shot up in the air, he started crying. That's when he would have got the police. Now you didn't growl at me like you wanted to whoop my ass. Then you start crying. I'm gonna tell my brother. Come on, didn't you run down and tell the police? I'm like, shit. Now I'm going to jail for attempted murder. Attempted murder. Just so happened, a detective who I knew from a previous situation that happened at my house was on duty that night. And my bail was $12,000. I refused to let my daddy post bail because I wasn't going to use that one of them two bailing out to to get for on this rate. This is bullshit right here. Homeboy got out 30 minutes after he got locked in. I'm still in jail. So I told him, I made a phone call, told my girl, give my daddy the money to bail me out. It was my money, not my daddy's money. So I still had two bailouts on my record, and they bailed me out. And then the cop who I knew came to the he did a quick investigation. I said I didn't shoot at him. I shot up in the air, but I did point it at him after I shot at him. But he said, did you pull the trigger again? Nope. Bottom line is, make a long story short, which is almost too late. They dropped it down after I got out of jail and bailed out. They dropped it down to brandishing a firearm and just hitting them, which was a misdemeanor. And that's when Alfonso got my ass. Cost me $1,200, and I ended up on semi-probation.
Not J. Roos. Shout out J. Roos. He has a good comment. I'll get to that in a minute. But our boy Rat7 sent us another donation. He said hip hop should make the Eve a museum. That would be a pretty damn good idea. What do you think, Lonzo?
What Jeffy's son Frank and I are working on the Eve for the past 18 months to get it back open. And that's one of the plans. I probably won't be a museum per se, but we will have a lot of my artifacts in the music in the Eve After Dark. Might not be an actual museum, but I gave us some ideas about maybe some of my old costumes or something, put them in some cases. Because I used to have at the Eve, I had a hallway with a lot of my stuff in the hallway. I got quite a few things I had framed up, pictures and earrings and stuff. I had them all framed up, and I put them in the hallway at Eve After Dark, and just as a part of the decorations. But since I got a lot more stuff and it's a lot more valuable now, I probably would do just something very similar to that.
So I guess at the beginning, let's talk about, was it mostly profit at one time, or did you have a lot of expenses running the Eve? Can you kind of give us a behind the scenes, not to get in your pockets or anything, but that's a pretty interesting thing.
Negro, bruh. It might have cost me, I don't know, about a grand a week. If Jeffy was hitting me for $300 a night, I had my cashier, to 2 cashiers, 3 DJs, and security guards, depending on what was going on. So the security guards made like 50, 60 a night. That was a lot of money for security guards. That's $10 an hour, dude. And I'm gonna say something right now because y'all gonna hear this in a documentary. Because my third documentary is about to come out, and Clientele made a statement about in the documentary we didn't get paid what we were worth. Well, at that time, nobody didn't have any real value. I got 3 DJs, 4 actually, it's an unknown DJ too. I got 4 DJs. Everybody's getting paid $50 a weekend. That's like $25 an hour. They didn't play that long. And I still play from time to time. So I explained to him, I said, think about this right now. Most DJs probably get, I don't know, if you just coming in with your records and no system, you might get $200 or $300 a night. Okay. Most if you get $300 a night, just come and do an hour set, you're doing all right. Okay. Today. So I got 4 DJs. I got Yella, I got Dre, Clientele played from time to time, Unknown played, and I would play sometime. I played all the time in the beginning. After a while, I became an executive producer, and I wouldn't play that much. But for somebody like Dre in the movies Straight Outta Compton, he got $50 because he didn't do nothing else. All he did was play. Yella would make $400 or $500 a week off my ass, though. Unknown might make $1,500. Unknown ran the bar, and he promoted, and he DJ'd. So Unknown got multiple envelopes. I paid everybody in envelopes. Yella's envelopes would be nice because he done hung up posters. May have done a noon dance, or he may have done a prom or something like that. So Yella would get a nice, decent amount of money because he was a hustler. Dre was not. He didn't have the same kind of hustle. Clientele had the same kind of hustle. He only DJ'd, maybe MC from time to time. So it was real hard to look and say, hey man, we're going to be the next big thing. And no, we hadn't got there yet. We hadn't reached star status yet. We were just local celebrities, and we had, and the problem was I was one of them as well. And that's always been a problem I've had when it's come to Wrecking Crew, because I did own the Eve. I was one of the DJs, but I was the boss DJ. I did own Crew Cut Records. I was a member of the World Class Record Crew, but I owned the production company and the record company when they had a record company. So I wore a lot of hats, but again, I had to because nobody else had a head to put them on. Nobody else had no money to put and invest. So if I've been blessed to do all this stuff and not being chicken shit with it, but it only was a problem when it came out of the money.
There it is. What number one lesson or lessons has owning Eve After Dark taught you?
That you never know when you're making history, dude. You never know when you will make history. You never know. I wasn't trying to make history. I was trying to make some money. That was all I was trying to do. History was not even a part of my vocabulary, not on my to-do list. I knew we had something different, but I didn't know what the impact it would be. I didn't know D.L. Hughley till later on. He told it I was an even struck all the time. What? He wasn't. He was just Daryl back then. He wasn't D.L. Hughley. So and that's the part that people always forget, is that so many people started off as kids. They hadn't been established yet. The Eve was a platform that gave people direction, gave people opportunity, gave people hope. You know, I just went to a Soul Train party the other day. My boy Charlie Wu from Soul Train, from Captain Crunch and the Funky Bunch. You know, he's doing the same thing I did in the Eve, but he's doing it for grown folks now. And the Soul Train crew, they get together once a month and do parties. The same thing we did back in the Eve. And they still get out. They still dance just as hard as they did back in 1979 and 1984. They still get out. It's just like you did on Soul Train. So that whole phenomenon gave people opportunity that I don't see happening again, Doc. I don't see it happening again. It was a perfect storm between me, Greg Mack, and McCullough. Well, me, Roger. I would never not include Uncle Jam's Army, because they were my crosstown rivals, but we had different business models. My thing was consistency, theirs was being big. But Greg Mack on the radio, me and Roger on the streets, and McCullough getting our records out and getting them pressed up. That was a hell of a trifecta, dude.
Joaquin Cisneros earlier mentioned Z Cars. What is Z Cars, Lonzo?
Z Cars was another production company that was a part of the early dance promoters. They had the hottest cars. They had the hottest cars in the city. Z Cars, such as 240Z, 260Z, 280Zs. That's what they called them, Z Cars. And because they had the Z Cars, it was like little bitty Datsuns and Nissans. They became Nissans. Okay. But they were the hot cars to have back in the day. And they had a car club, and they started giving dances. And they became a very, very popular group as a dance promoter. But again, they didn't follow the hip hop, and they went into something else. You know, nobody transitioned from dance promoting to hip hop like me and Roger or Uncle Jam's Army did.
New Old Homie says, "Hey Lonzo, can you do a video where you talk about Alpine Village and how you started that with your first party? I'm really interested in that time." I mean, since it's brought up, let's talk about that. Lonzo, tell us about Alpine Village and how you got started with that, and maybe we can kind of wrap the show up with that.
Alpine Village was not originally not my idea. It was Roger Clayton's idea. Me and Roger we both worked at a record distributor called Record Shack. We both worked in the sales room, and I was DJing. I was booking more gigs on the phone than I was selling records. And Roger had, man, we ought to give a dance. Okay, where at, man? Alpine Village. I can get that. So Roger booked Alpine Village. I had the sound system. He had the connection for the room. And we started doing the Alpine. Now, excuse me, I didn't start doing the Alpine. I started doing the Alpine just as a DJ for Unique Dreams Entertainment, which was the original name of Uncle Jam's Army. Roger and I used to always bump heads because I'm DJing, Roger's running around doing what he does, and at the peak of midnight, which the crowd is at its highest, I've been playing all the hot cuts, but I'm holding out because when I play Flashlight, that's going to be like a musical nut they're going to get, okay? Aqua Boogie, I'm sorry, it was Aqua Boogie. Okay, Aqua Boogie was like a musical nut, and I'm ready to play it, ready to drive. I've been pumping. I got it now. What the fuck you mean you got it? The fuck you mean you got it? That's my set. He pushed me out the way, man, and play Flashlight and take all that goddamn energy from me. And dude, we would argue and fight. And then sometimes Gid even talks about it in my documentary, how he and I would be sitting over there tugging on the record because we both wanted to play Flashlight. Um, and later on, after a few dances, Jeannie's daughter, Jana, came through and saw Alpine cracking and thought it would be a good idea if her mom gave some dances. And they came up there, and Roger's partner, Gid, turned me on to Jeannie, and who I call all my documentaries my fairy godmother. And she hired me to do her Alpine Village dance, and it didn't do the first one she didn't do that great, and then she and I partnered up, and I knew how to promote. She had the money, and we blew it up. And Roger hated that. He fired me behind it. But now I'm doing my own Alpine Village. I got a female partner. We kicking ass with Alpine Village, and shortly after that, I got Eve After Dark. Alpine was a German restaurant over in Torrance. They are just tearing it down right now. I just passed by yesterday, and they are actually starting to take the sign down. I got some old footage of it before they tore it down. We only could get it on Friday nights because they had German dances on Saturdays. And huge dance floor, big stage up front because they had them oompa bands, them German oompa bands, oompa, 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 yeah. And then they had a big dance floor because them Germans, they do that swing thing, and they need a lot of space. So Alpine was perfect for what we did. And they had a little balcony up top. People, you could look. I would hide up there with my girls, and when I wasn't DJing, and had the landing was great because it didn't have no air conditioning, but the windows on the side they opened up so you get that sea breeze and let the room cool down. But it was really a cool place, man, for when it was rocking.
Talk about when your dad saw that money you was making there, and things almost went left because he thought you was slanging.
One Alpine Village, man. I went home. I lived in my mom's house. My mom passed, and I lived in her house. My dad made me. We still owned the house, but I had to move in. Somebody would break in, and Pops had a key. And after Alpine, one Saturday morning, he came by the house. I'm sitting on the bed. I got maybe about $500-600, but it's in fives and ones. Visually, I am balling. And he's like, "Where you get that money from?" And what people don't realize, my neighborhood, everybody sold dope. I never sold dope. And my old man told me, if I ever catch you selling dope, I'm gonna kick your ass and turn you in myself after I kill you. And Pops, don't kill me. I ain't sold no dope. I did a party at Alpine. I DJ'd a party last night. Ain't that much DJing in the goddamn world. And dude, trust me. He came to Alpine a couple weeks later, and when he saw what we were doing, he was so impressed. And that's how I got introduced to Jeff D.
Tied it up in a nice little bow. You see how we did that, ladies and gentlemen? Beautiful, man. The Eve After Dark, 46 years later. That's amazing, Lonzo. Any last words, man? I know you got a couple things coming up. You got the show this weekend. Break it down. Talk to us.
Yes, the company I work with, EECI, Entrepreneur Education Center Incorporated, right here in Gardena, where I am an instructor for marketing. We are doing the Morris Day Howard Hewitt Michelet show this Saturday, June 28th at the Cerritos Arts Performing Arts Center. Oh man, this venue is dope. They don't come no doper, dude. I'm sorry. They don't come no dope. This is my first time being here, but I'll be the DJ. I'm rocking. I'm doing the opening and in between the acts. And I'll be hosting the after party. So folks, if you haven't bought tickets yet, if you want to come out and check us out this Saturday night at the Cerritos Performing Arts Center, we still have tickets available. They're $75 and $50 right now. All the VIP $100 tickets are gone. But trust me, there are no bad seats in this joint. There are no bad seats. The furthest seat from the stage is only 180 feet. Okay, you could throw a rock and still hit the stage. That's how we're doing it down there. So, yes, folks. Saturday night, I'll be rocking at the Cerritos Performing Arts Center with Morris Day and the Time, Howard Hewitt, and Michelet. It's going down.
There it is. Make sure you make that show, everybody, if you're in town. All right, man. Any last words? You want to hit them with that outro, Lonzo?
Oh, man, we up out of here. For those who never heard of me, I'm the first one to put Dr. Dre into surgery, stuck Ice Cube in the freezer until he got cold. On the Eve After Dark, 50-yard line to Super Bowl. In the movie Straight Outta Compton, they played me like a hater of rap. Don't believe that Hollywood bullshit, because it was all cap. My history goes deeper than you will ever know. Just remember that NWA stands for not without Alonzo. Peace, y'all.